Today we are going to learn the parts of our instrument, the names of the strings, and learn to play some notes on it. I'm going to be demonstrating the violin and the viola today, and I'm starting out with a viola. So please carefully take your instrument from the case, leaving the bow in the case. We're not going to learn about it yet. Please carefully lift it by this part that has the stickers on it to be safe, and carefully place it against your body. It's a little slippery, so make sure you hold it down here. And now we are ready to learn the parts of our instrument. It's the same for both the violin and viola. If you start at the very top, you'll see a part in the wood that is carved, and it looks like a rolled up piece of paper. We call this the scroll of our instrument, and it goes into what we call the peg box. And in our peg box are our 4 pegs. These pegs have holes in them, and they hold up our strings. Be very careful with the pegs not to hit against them or move them right now. We will be learning how to use them later. Our strings come out of the holes in the pegs and come across what we call the fingerboard. It's this black piece of wood, and it is attached on the back to what we call the neck of our instrument. The neck is attached to what we call the upper bout of our instrument. It's also called the shoulder, and the upper bout goes into what we call the C bout because it looks like a big C. The strings continue on off the fingerboard and over the bridge. That's this piece of wood right here. It is not glued into our instrument. It is only held into place by the strings. So be very careful with your bridge not to hit it or put anything on top of it or lay the instrument down on it. It is very fragile, and you need to be very careful with it. Our strings then go across the bridge into our tail piece. But first, we need to notice these holes that are carved into our instrument. You can see into the inside in there, and there is a stick. I can't show it to you right now, but if you look carefully in there, you'll see there's a stick in there called the sound post. The F-holes are called the F-holes because they look like large cursive F's. So our strings come down off the bridge into the tail piece, which is this long piece right here of wood or metal. And the strings go in to the 4 screws that are called the fine tuners. That's what holds the end of the strings. And we want to learn how to use these later, but for now, let's not turn them or anything. Just leave them as they are. And our tail piece continues on over the edge of the instrument and is held into place with our end button. That's what holds everything into place. Then you'll see this piece of black wood. This is not attached to our strings or anything. It is on our instrument so that we can place our chin on it to hold our instrument up. Okay, so now let's turn to page 3, and we will find out how to hold our instrument in rest position, which is also called the guitar position. So carefully put your hand here, and you can leave your hand here also, just to be safe. Then we're going to learn the names of our 4 strings. And on viola, our first string that we want to learn is the one that's closest to our head, and it is called the C string. And I'm going to take my thumb and pluck it. Our next string is the G string, followed by the D string, and the highest one is the A string. C, G, D, A. If you want to learn how to memorize that and remember the order of it, if you remember the saying, cats go down alleys, you'll know what the 4 names of your strings are. Let's switch to the violin. So again, hold it in guitar position carefully, and the lowest string closest to our head is the G, followed by the D, next is the A, and the highest one is the E string. We have a saying for this also. Good dogs always eat. That's kind of easy to remember, isn't it? All right, so now that you know the 4 names of your strings, let's find our D string on both instruments. So on the violin, it's right here. On the viola, it's the 3rd string up. Let's turn to page 6, and you're going to see our hand put like this. And it's going to show you the numbers of the fingers. We don't use our thumb to play notes on our instrument. We use our thumb to help hold the instrument. But we do use our 1st finger, our 2nd finger, our 3rd finger, and our 4th finger to play notes on our instrument. Today we're going to learn our 1st, 2nd, and 3rd fingers. But first of all, we have to learn how to hold our instrument correctly with our hand shaped just right to hold it correctly to play. So you see what I did is I carefully turn my hand and let everything relax so I can carefully bend my fingers just so, keeping my hand flat. And you see, I kind of make a V between my thumb and my 1st finger. This is where we're going to place the neck of the instrument. So I'm going to put my hand over like this, and you can still see that V because my hand is straight like this. So we don't want to do this to grab our instrument. That's what we don't want to do. We do want to do this. So we have that open V. We turn our hand, take our 1st finger, and bend it so that we can place it on the D string, which is right here on the violin. You need to, if you're holding your viola, please make sure you're on the D string. I put the very tip of my finger flat against the string. Then I pluck it. Then I take my 2nd finger, do the same thing. I have it very bent, see? And I have it flat against the sticker. Same thing with my 3rd finger. We are going to learn about our 4th finger another time. For now, we're going to play our 1st, 2nd, and 3rd fingers and our open D. So you can see that as I was going up the string, it got a little bit higher, and it does. It goes 1 note higher for each finger that I put down. The way we know what the notes are is we use our musical alphabet. Our musical alphabet is A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. We don't go on to H, I, J, or anything like that. We just start over. After we get to G, we start over with the letter A. Now we're going to start on the letter D right now because we're on our D string. So we start in the middle of the alphabet, but we're going to still go up the alphabet. So here's our D, which we call open string because there aren't any fingers down. When we put our 1st finger on the D string, it makes it go higher by 1 note to the letter E. 2nd finger goes up to what we call F sharp. And then third finger is the note G. D, E, F sharp, G. And then we can go backwards by taking our fingers off. Here's our G, our F sharp, our E, our D. And notice I have my hand turned and it's flat, and I have the V between my first finger and my thumb. I wanted to show you one thing with the thumb. When we're playing with our thumb, we don't want it sticking up like this. We want it just barely peeking up over the side of the fingerboard. That way we can have our V as we play. And we want to make sure we're still on our fingertips all the time, so we don't have our hand collapsing or doing this. We don't want to grab onto our instruments. We want to be playing on our tippy toes the whole time. So please practice every day that you can for a few minutes so you'll be ready for your first orchestra rehearsal. Happy practicing!